To start off with, our first topic, first of three, would be education. Both the questions won't be just to anyone specifically, so both of you may intervene whenever you wish to. Without a doubt, the education system across all of Europe has been through a lot recently with COVID and with a lot of other challenges which it has faced and which it is currently facing. In your view, both of you, what does the future hold for the education system, both in Malta but as well across the EU as a whole? Don't know who
So,
starts.
for me, well, the COVID-19 pandemic has been monumental to the education system. It's the longest time that schools have been closed since the Second World War. So I think with today's technological advancement, first of all, and with the population growth and the environmental and societal challenges that we are currently facing, again both in Europe and in Malta, the future should be built on research and evidence. I think it's something that's very important in all aspects of society, but in the education system in general, there's a lot of reforms that are just done because of political whims or convenience, and I think that evidence and research should be the main topic that is focused on, and there's long-term planning.
Yeah, and I think globally in Europe, those times there is also an issue on finding enough teachers to fill the schools and to have regular classes with not too much students and to have a good quality of education. And I think it's running in most of European countries. So I don't know if it's through the valorization of the profession or allowing more young people to access also those jobs and those professions that the solution will be fine. But I think there is also some research to lead on how we allow the system to be effective and the young people to access a good education in general, because many young people were sacrificed during this COVID period, and I think after that the comeback to school were not easy either. So there is a lot of efforts to.
Yes, and I think something that should also be kept in mind is a greater, more smooth transition to the workforce, rather than just studying for the sake of studying and for the sake of exams. I think there should be a more smooth transition.
Yeah, or maybe an educational system more focused on preparing students or to real work.
Real life situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are saying that essentially the education system as it currently stands ought to shift away from simply students studying for the sake of getting grades and to be more equipped with entering the workforce once they graduate, as opposed to graduating and not knowing how they're gonna progress in their lives.
Yeah,
I suppose.
the system adapt to the realities, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the topic of the realities which our education system is facing, you touched upon the amount of students which are in schools. It's no secret that through no fault of their own, for many reasons, some students at least choose to drop out, to not pursue their studies. In both of your opinions, what can any country or government do to ensure that young people and youths and students continue learning, remain in school and progress further in their education?
I mean, for me, there is no age to stop training yourself and getting involved in other studies and, I mean, trying new things. So I think in some countries, the educational system does not allow easily adults or people that get out of the school system at some point to go back in it. I mean, this is complicated, this asks sometimes money. If you drop school when you were, 17 and you want to go back when you are 20, you don't always have a situation at 20 that allows you to pay many money to go in again. So probably there is also a lot of efforts in this type of cases to allow people to get into trainings and without too much complications.
Definitely. And I think something else that's quite a bit of a hindrance is the fact that the students have a very big workload, considering the subjects that they have, and I think the education system isn't very much inclusive. So it doesn't allow for extracurricular activities, for example, like sports, arts, even. I had some personal experiences where I was actually stopped from pursuing certain things, certain activities, just for the sake of having lectures, having practical sessions, and I think that doesn't motivate students and youths in general to continue studying. It's something that students want to do, and students, after all, it's something that is something healthy for both their mental health and their physical health, and also for their education experience. So if we were to have a reform of the education system in this way, that would allow more inclusive and informal, non-formal education,
I agree.
Combined with formal education.
Yeah, I agree, and valorization of diverse experiences.
Yeah.
So most definitely the education system, in order to accommodate and consider these realities, must accommodate the students who wish to pursue extracurricular activities, so that activities after school hours may be allowed to continue, may be allowed to pursue their studies and any academic ventures which they want to undertake. But also, as we've seen in Malta, but I'm sure it happens elsewhere across in Europe, accommodate for students who, for whatever reason, choose to work as well whilst they're studying. And as a context, we've also just seen the measures introduced in Malta where students who are in sixth form may choose to extend their period of study for whatever reason, should they wish to do so while they're studying and working. And on the topic of not just this component, but the system as a whole vis-a-vis education. So you may now get into whatever problem you see and whatever problems you think the system has. What changes and advancements do you think need to be made and need to be introduced within the education system in order for it to be able to provide more for students where it may be currently failing?
I mean, I think the educational system followed for many years one way to do. It's getting better and better, but we are not there yet where everyone can feel comfortable in one place to study something we care about or we feel comfortable about. I mean, we all are different, so we should have different ways of experiencing education. And I think so far this was not pushed enough. So to do so, I think diverse form of education, like popular education, could be pushed away and more recognized, like you mentioned before. I think there is a lot to do, just going out of the frame we used to know, and thinking further.
Yeah, even the curriculum itself, I think, is very focused on theoretical subjects, and like I mentioned before, there aren't any practical, real-life topics that are delved into. For example, financial literacy comes to mind, considering taxes, social security, banking, budgeting as well, mental health, sexual health, especially when in schools where the administration is a bit more conservative. These topics are not really elaborated on. There's just some mentioning in PSD, or I don't know if it's still called PSD, but
something like that.
It was in my time. But yeah, even civic education, we have one of the directorates that we have as KNZ is the Directorate for Civic Education.
Okay.
And we're currently working towards a curriculum for civic education on a national level that teaches youths and students in general how to vote, for example, the Constitution, EU, politics in general, so debating, critical thinking, and these types of things. I don't think currently the education system prepares youths enough for these situations.
Yeah, and I'm bringing another thing on the table, finances. So young people, I mean, probably less in Europe than in other parts of the world, but there is some young people that does not continue studies because of finance issues. If you need to work to survive, you don't go to school. This is the thing. So there is probably something to be done in this area too, to allow everyone that wants to continue studying to be able to do so.
Yeah, maybe like a work education balance thing.
Yes.
I don't
I would
know
say.
how best to describe it.
I mean, it exists in some countries. I think northern countries are better system than us in this area, educational area, and there is a lot to learn from their system, like scholarships to every student that wants to continue working or studying.
In Malta, we don't really see that. We, for example, I'm not sure specifically about MCAS, but university, it allows you, I believe now it's 30 hours.
Yes.
30 hours working.
Okay.
It's not related to your field, you just can work up to 30 hours a week part-time, along with your studies. But
And the studies, they will manage to make it possible for you to follow classes and everything according to your hours, or?
I personally, I preferred to study, just study and then work after. But I know a lot of people that manage to do both at the same time. So it depends on the person, it depends on their time management, their financial situation, because obviously certain people may not afford to just study and not work.
Yeah, this is it.
So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, and definitely if a proposition had to come out of this, it is that just as we have the work-life balance for adults in the workforce, why should we not have an education work balance for students who are still pursuing their studies,
Yeah.
but still already